Or all the beetles get down there and get knocked out. The bees will actually chase them right in there, go to hide, they drop in the oil and they drown.
You put that on the top or the bottom chamber?
In the bottom. In the top, I'll put one in each. Depending on the load, now I see a lot, I'll put probably 2 or 3 in there, trap them out real quick. I don't want them going in there winter.
Yeah. Roger's got a question, Stan.
Beetle trap. Beetle trap. South African Hive beetle trap.
Stan.
That's only one variety. Yes?
I've had a couple of times where I go in and my feeders will have white larvae swimming around into it. Is that beetle or black moth?
Swim around in your syrup?
Yeah.
It's like a worm, white little worm.
That's probably your South African Hive beetle. Yeah. Yeah.
The other week I did have that and I did see a beetle in there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, if you see one, you got more.
But yeah, they're in the top bar, the top feeders,
Yeah.
and they're just swimming around. I had to take it out and dump it out.
They started out in South Jersey when the commercial beekeepers were bringing up their bees from down south.
Yeah.
Of course, down south they always have
It
them.
looks like
They were brought in down there, and what happens is they're coming north every year a little bit more and more. They like to live in sandy soil, so South Jersey is an ideal spot. When they were doing the blueberry and cranberry pollination, they all came in, they had 16,000 colonies of bees come in for pollination every year, 160,000, something like that. And these migratory guys bring the stuff from Florida all the way to Maine, and then Maine across to California, so it's spreading, with the migratory beekeepers, so there's no control over it, that's their bread and butter, they make a living. So evidently it comes to us, and then we have to worry about the problem, and we got to treat it. So there's other varieties out there. There's one made in Australia that's all plastic, that's reusable. But I think these are about the best way to go, about the cheapest. You can throw them away or,
Stan, yeah, okay, okay.
Well, I wouldn't hurt, I'd just leave it, if it gets too cold in
Yeah,
the
it
winter time, you
is.
still
It
got
is.
bees, leave it in there,
Oh, yeah.
But in the springtime,
And
take it out.
genome.
Try to get it out before the winter, if you can, but if it's trapped in
I
there,
get
it's
what
too cold,
you're
you can't
saying.
get to it,
Like, wow.
for whatever reason.
No, I get it, I don't, I didn't understand it, but I do get it.
Like, wow, man.
Definitely did treat them, you don't want them in
Well, it's like
there.
the
They're not
idea
gonna-
with dogs.
You'd be surprised at
Either
how
be
many
male
be
or
in there dead.
female, depending on what
I've
the
seen them
species
in a
is.
program already where this thing was like 3/4 full of beetles, where the guy had hundreds and hundreds of beetles in line down south. Don't believe it. Yeah.
What's it blue?
Right next to you.
So that answers that question. Anything else?
What's
Did I miss?
Okay.
Do you leave your beekeeper frame feeder in?
Sometimes I do, yeah. If I can't get to them to take them out, I'll leave them in there. Yeah. And then I'll just use it early spring for feeding. It's a light colony. Yeah. February start feeding.
Okay.
February, yeah.
And then I have, do you put any insulation on the top? Or you leave,
Oh, yeah, to get them ready for winter. My inner cover. I got my inner cover on there. And I got, notice my mouse guards got as much air as they can get. We use full ventilation. All right? Because that air has to circulate and come up through, especially with New Jersey, all the humidity we have. So I have 2 sticks that I brought with me.
I want to see the half-pound breed.
2 sticks or stones or whatever, and it's in that article that he had in the journal right there, you can see that. And I raise it up like this, you can cut a notch in there too. But I was making them with the notches, and people said they don't want the notch, so we make them without the notch. If you want the notch, you put your notch in yourself. I prefer not to use the notch myself, because that way I can just prop these up and I can close them when I need it. And otherwise the bees won't get in there to rob when I'm doing my feeding. And what I'll do is then I'll put the roof on there like this. So we got the roof on there for the winter. I can press it on. Push it all the way forward. Make sure you get your fingers underneath there. And you got the ventilation. It's up there. This should be right up there. Yeah. Okay. Like that. Stick, stones, whatever. You want to raise it up at least 5 inches, an inch or so. A little bit better than I have there. I just pick up sticks on the ground and throw them around that. Right. But there are guys that will put the regular height in there and leave it in there. They'll nail it in or glue it in or whatever. Then they go reverse the cover, but then you go reverse the cover, you've got to take them out. This way you just take the sticks, throw them on the ground. But two more next time come through. But you definitely want that ventilation. You got to have that air circulating. I've taken off the roof already, and I've seen this cover, when I lifted it off, it was, the deep side up for the winter, springtime, like this where the bees come through there. I've taken off my roof, my inner cover, and I've taken the lid off like this, and this is all full of water, droplets of water. And guess what? Your queen is right up here in this second story now. She's laying eggs right in the center here. And what it does, it creates hypothermia. The cool, wet night damps, you know, in the wintertime that we get or early spring, we got so much moisture and wet weather here, the humidity, it's like the Amazon, you could say. All this is full of water. And it'll actually get mildew, and all bacteria start to grow. You don't want that. Again, you want the sticks in there to eliminate that problem. Have it well vented. The bees aren't going to die in cold weather. They wear them over in Canada, minus 30 degrees. But they do wrap them, but they're still out there, it's minus 30, and they're doing fine. But the ventilation and humidity is what will do a number on hypothermia.
That's the winter position for that board?
This is the winter position, yeah. Right.
Mm-hmm.
The winter position is the deep side down, so they can traverse freely across all these frames.
Okay. Now, what I do for mine is a couple of things. And Stan will cover this too, I think. And that is the old sugar. I put sugar in the inner lid,
Yeah.
okay, which means that the deep side will go up in that case because you're utilizing it as you would bee fondant. Okay. Well, then what I do is I use a medium or small super. Now, the medium or the small super will be the windbreak for the bee candy, and I put the bee candy right by the vent on top of some popsicle sticks, and I make a horseshoe of the sugar. Okay. Now, the sugar's there for a couple of reasons. Before I got and made the bee candy, okay, which saved my bees last March. What I did was I had sugar in there, and the sugar is hygroscopic. What that means is a chemical loves water. It'll draw water to them. That water come up, okay? I've actually seen what he's seen with this. Only this part here, because I had it vented or tilted, this part here was loaded up with water, and there was an ice cube that sat up here about this big. So I just took it and dumped it out. Caused me to check every single one of my hives for that reason. Right, but I put the sugar here, and then I have, of course, a notch so that the bees can breathe. Because if you seal that off, it's a sand like a sand seal. So what you want to do is make a notch with a little saw and chisel it out with a screwdriver. Bang, you got your notch. So don't forget your sugar if you want to do it.
Like he was saying there, I do this in February, January. I get out there usually around Celeste's time. The days start getting a little bit longer, the bees know it, they start getting more active, the queen's laying more eggs, because she starts laying that second week of January. And I will take the inner cover, like you say, it's down like this for the winter. But come January now, for me, January is springtime, January, early February, right? I take the cover, flip it over, and I have a bucket of granulated sugar, and I just fill this whole thing up with sugar, solid right up to the top, fill that whole deep side up with sugar. And the bees will absorb that moisture, like Charlie said. It'll absorb all that moisture, get rid of that humidity that's underneath that cover, because it's going to have right in here. And this sugar acts as an absorbent, absorbs all that moisture. And the bees will come right up through the inner cover, and they'll actually eat all the way around, right up to the corners, like I said before. Then I just put more sugar on there and fill it up again. And acts as an insulator and absorbs that moisture. Now this is only for New Jersey, but I found out it works.
So the sugar on the top, on that top board, do you also put a frame feeder in as well?
If the weather in the winter, if the weather is above freezing in the evening, yeah, I would put the feeder on. If it's still cold and it freezes at night, don't put the feeder. Don't feed them. Gotta wait until it warms up. They're not gonna take cold sugar, and you're gonna disturb them by that. I wouldn't recommend doing that. Later on in the spring, do it when the weather gets warmer, and the nights aren't down to the freezing point. You'll get up into the 40s and 50s at night. Then go ahead and start feeding your liquid. Go away from the dry sugar or your fondant. Then go to your liquid feed.
Dry is for strictly like the.
Yeah. Fill up the inner cover now with sugar. Yeah. Like I said, your deep side be down now for the winter. In December, January. Then if it's light, you want to flip it over. See the moisture and the humidity. Flip it over. It'll still get up in there. And fill this up with dry sugar. So leave the hole open so they can come up. And they need ventilation because you have there's two sticks in here for ventilation. Right? Just like that. This will be all full of sugar. And put your roof on. Okay?
Talk about the ventilation should be at the front of the hive. Don't create the chimney effect,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I don't think you said that loud enough that people... The other thing is, I think what Albert wanted to know was about like those foam insulations and or people use burlap bags with stuff in it. Can you talk about that type of setup? Because I think that's what he was looking for.
You do the insulation on the outside or inside?
I don't do it, I was just asking if that's what you're doing. I saw like the pink insulation on top, you
Yeah.
make sure you carve out a hole so they can go in and out, right?
Yeah, people do that, yeah. I don't do it myself.
I just wanted to know if you had done that. So.
Roger has a neat
Roger
way
has
of
it.
doing it.
I take burlap bags and put wood shavings from my planer into it, put that up there in insulation, that absorbs the moisture.
Yeah.
My opinion is a foam or plastic up on top of there
Yeah.
is not gonna absorb any moisture.
No, it won't.
So it can still condensate there.
Yeah, the sugar will.
But with these burlap bags, that absorbs the moisture. When I take that out in the spring and I put bags of sugar up on top with a little
So
water.
there's your answer.
You also have a ventilated cupboard again.